Okay, so it is my pleasure tonight to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Amy Shouse, who is an acupuncturist and also does functional medicine. Her talk tonight is called Thriving, Not Striving at Your Ideal Body Weight. In this informative talk, Dr. Amy Shouse will discuss the all too pervasive myths around the weight loss world. Simple sayings like count your calories or eat less, move more are thrown around casually by well-intentioned professionals. However, these sayings reflect beliefs that can actually be harmful to a person who's making genuine and wholehearted efforts to achieve their ideal body weight. And if someone repeatedly struggles to lose weight, they may ultimately give up, resulting in even greater health consequences. A little bit about Amy, and by the way, I'm hearing a lot of background noise, so I'm going to mute everyone. Sorry, no offense. Amy, unmute yourself, okay? Okay, so a little bit about Amy. Dr. Amy Shouse, acupuncture and functional medicine practitioner at NorCal Integrative Medicine, works to help underscore the importance of understanding a multi-pronged approach to total health, which includes implementing lifestyle changes, nutrition, exercise, as well as surrounding oneself with a loving and supportive community. Okay, so I am going to, with that, please help me welcome with your hands on silent, or you can do this. Help me welcome Amy. Go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you all. Hi, Terry. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Janet. Hi, everybody. It's really good to see you. And thank you, Andrea, for that introduction. And by the way, I was told during my Zoom consultation with Andrea that I could call her Dr. Dre. And so that's what I'm going to call her from now on. Anyway, moving right along. So I'm going to share a quick picture with you really quick to show you what I looked like about 8 years ago. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a picture of me. I'm going to make that better. This is a picture of me about 7.5 years ago, and I look quite different. And so one of the reasons I became a doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncture is because I struggled for many years with a litany of health issues, autoimmune disease, palpitations. I sound like a pharmaceutical commercial when I talk about this. But aside from all that, one thing that I really struggled with off and on forever was maintaining a ideal body composition or a healthy body weight. And as you see in this picture, I'm relatively overweight here. And that's something that was kind of on and off for me for years. But also in this picture, 7.5 years ago, of course, I'm postpartum. My son was about 6 months old. But you'll see here, and that I was doing 3 to 5 spin classes a week, yoga twice a week, weight training, and eating healthy. So I was doing everything that I could to lose weight. And being the person that I am, I'm kind of like to think of myself as a Sherlock Holmes. I like to investigate why things are the way they are. And there has to be a reason. So I went down a rabbit hole in terms of exploring why I couldn't lose the weight. I was having what we call weight loss resistance. And I was doing everything. And as we all know, we're dealing with COVID-19, but we're also dealing with, as Maria pointed out, the quarantine 15 for a lot of us, which is we're sitting at home more often. Maybe we're doing some more emotional eating. There's a number of reasons, but maybe we just don't feel very good in our body. We've gained some weight. So I think it's pretty appropriate right now to go over this topic because I think a lot of us are dealing with it. So I just wanted to share that picture with you because sometimes people see me and they go, what does she know about losing weight? I know a lot. So, but I wanted to talk today about myths versus facts around weight loss because I think that we have a lot of ideas around what we should and should and should not be doing. And that is informed a lot by what culturally we are told and what we hear. And one myth that we hear a lot, and this is myth number one, is the eat less, move more saying. So how many people have heard the term eat less, move more? For how many people did that help you lose weight? For how many people did that help you lose weight long term? A few people. So when I talk about myths, what I want to do is I want to qualify also kind of what a myth is, which a myth is typically something that contains a half truth or an unquestioned belief. So what I kind of want to do today is talk about what I call and help cultivate what I call the balcony of the mind. So the balcony of the mind is a place that we cultivate within our minds where we step outside, we look at the bigger picture, we consider other ideas. And we maybe we change our mind, maybe we don't, but we're willing to step out on the balcony and kind of talk about this stuff. So with eat less, move more, we have this saying that kind of tells us we know the cause of weight gain. And this is what it is. It is that you are eating too much and you are not moving enough. So it sort of ends the conversation with right there. We know the cause of weight gain. We know the reason you're not losing, and it's because of these two things. And it also implies, and this is where I get a little bit prickly, and I'm not a big fan of this saying, outside from the fact that it sort of ends the conversation and it ends inquiry, it's also very judgmental. It really brings into play this almost like the 7 deadly sins, gluttony and sloth. Eat less because you're a glutton, move more, you're not able to move more because you're a sloth. So there's really an underlying judgment that comes with this saying that really, really doesn't make me happy, because I don't feel it's constructive and I don't feel that it actually helps people, mainly because it does end the conversation there. So, and then it also sort of feeds into confusion, because then we get all these strategies and ways of dealing with weight gain and weight loss resistance that conflict with one another, and just like an endless realm of possibilities. So we usually get pretty confused, we get overwhelmed, and we will then feel like we have failed, because this saying also emphasizes that kind of personal failure, that it instills this almost character flaw mentality. So what that also does, it leads to inaction. So we stop taking steps, we stop making efforts, and oftentimes our health suffers even more. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about getting clarity, and hopefully with clarity, as we all know, many of you are coaches and practitioners, with clarity comes action. So the other myth that goes along with eat less, move more is this saying calories in, calories out. And this is also kind of like end of the line, calories in, calories out. You just need to cut your calories. You need to burn what you eat, blah, blah, blah. And so the reason I don't like this saying is because it assumes that all calories are equal. And many of us know all calories are not equal. In fact, food is information. It stimulates certain hormones, a number of different hormones, and it stimulates blood sugar, or maybe it doesn't increase blood sugar that much. There's a whole lot of things that happen depending on what types of foods that we choose. So this calories in, calories out is, again, this sort of myth that feeds into the eat less, move more movement, and gives it the quote scientific backing that the eat less, move more paradigm really relies upon. And so is calories in, calories out, is that science? Sure, but let's leave it to the physicists. They can go into their lab and study their thermodynamics while we all try to live our lives and do something else besides talk about calories all day. So what I wanted to talk about in terms of these two pervasive myths is, because these myths prevent us from seeking the cause of weight gain, I kind of just wanted to open the door in terms of having a conversation around what actually does cause weight gain or weight loss resistance. So the real reason people cannot lose weight or they gain weight is two reasons, and that's hunger and hormones. So hunger and hormones are the two real main reasons that we're not losing and why we're gaining. So there's two different kinds of hunger. Actually, there's three, but I'll talk about two first. First is what I call brittle hunger, which is, picture that Snickers bar commercial where you see the guy and he's like hungry, he's hangry. How many people have experienced being hangry, where you're like, if I don't get something to eat, I'm gonna lose my shit. Like, I'm gonna turn into the Hulk. I'm gonna feel nauseous. I'm not gonna be able to make it through this next hour with this client because I'm gonna freaking die. So, not really, but you know what I'm saying. It feels like you're gonna die, right? So that's brittle hunger, where your blood sugar is so unstable that it's just sort of waxing and waning, and it's just like this. It's not what I call true hunger. So true hunger is sort of this gentle sloping hunger that comes in. You go say to yourself, I think I'm a little bit hungry, but I'm gonna be okay for the next hour. And you kind of let it pass, and it passes, and you're fine. Like, you don't die, you don't fall over and pass out and turn into the Hulk or whatever it is. So there's that sort of brittle hunger versus like real true hunger. And then there's one other hunger that I wanted to talk about briefly, which is stress or emotional hunger. So that is really important because oftentimes when we seek out weight loss strategies, we first focus on the emotional hunger or stress eating. And we do this because we know it's an issue, but we often don't actually address the cause for brittle hunger at the same time. So in my clinic, we address both. But what I was going to say about emotional hunger or stress hunger, which many of us are familiar with right now because of COVID-19, is that you can think of it this way. Anytime you're eating, and it is not a nutritional event, meaning it's not giving yourself nutrition or needed energy, that event is an emotional event. So if you can kind of think of it that way, anything that's not a nutritional event is an emotional event. And so what I like people to do is really kind of notice that. Like, if you're looking in the fridge and you're not really that hungry, but you know you're stressed, I'm not saying not to eat a cupcake because you're stressed. Like, we're all going to eat a cupcake if we're stressed sometimes. What I'm saying is to kind of start to become aware of when it is an emotional versus a nutritional event. But it's also really important to address brittle hunger at the same time. Because as I said, there are two things that are going to sabotage weight loss and weight loss resistance: hunger and hormones. I don't care how much emotional eating work that you are doing. If you have brittle hunger, you will sabotage your efforts, right? You can work all day, you can pray, you can do all the emotional eating gods. If you're like the Hulk and you eat a Snickers bar, it's not going to work. So the hormone that I like people to kind of first focus on is, there's a bunch of hormones at play here, but one of the number one hormones that I like people to focus on is insulin. And so insulin is a fat storage hormone. Insulin prevents your body from fat burning. So what we want to do is we want to spend some time in a state of low insulin. So, and I know many people have heard of insulin, maybe some people haven't, but it's kind of a simple idea. When you eat certain foods, mostly carbohydrates, you are stimulating insulin. So the insulin comes out, it pushes energy into the cells, and it starts to store fat. So what people do is often when they can't lose weight, is they're walking around and their insulin levels are high all day because they've had multiple meals with carbohydrate. And I'm not here to demonize carbohydrate, demonize fat, or any other macronutrient. I'm just saying if we can spend some time in a low insulin state, we are going to access fat burning, because insulin is a powerful hormone. It's supposed to only come out every now and then, but for a lot of us, it's doing its job all day long and preventing weight loss. So insulin is very important in terms of that. There's a couple of ways to regulate your insulin. You can make sure you can do two things. The main things are you can start intermittent fasting. And when I say fasting, some people are already rolling their eyes and some people love it. They already know what I'm talking about. They're all, that's amazing. I love that. That's the best thing ever. And other people are like, I've tried that. It didn't work. That's a longer conversation I need to have with them. And other people were like, oh my God, I could never do that. I could never just not eat. Like that was me. I was like, I could never just not eat. I'm going to die if I don't eat. So going into intermittent fasting or periods of low insulin, or you could simply start with one meal a day. You're doing higher protein and higher fat. So maybe it's breakfast, and then you save your carbohydrates for later on in the day, at lunch, at dinner. But with breakfast, people are often doing bananas, oatmeal, fruit smoothies. And so they're spiking insulin already to start the day. So again, we're just trying to find a way to lower insulin. So that's one way to do it. And that's one of the hormonal hormone levers that you can easily press. And you can do that consistently in your life, and you're going to start burning fat. So another myth that I wanted to talk about was this idea that eating fat makes you fat, or you could even say eating sugar makes you fat. But I wanted to ask everyone if they know, and some of you have seen some of my other talks, so you might know the answer to this. If you know the two foods on the planet that have both high fat and high sugar. Anybody? There are two foods on the planet that contain both high fat and high sugar, and no, it's not an avocado.
Michelle Dennis is raising her hand.
Okay, Michelle.
It's mother's milk.
That is one of them.
Okay, mother's. I was going to say ice cream.
Ice cream. I meant to say that occurs in nature.
Oh, okay.
Mother's milk is one, and then the other one, there's another one in nature, acorns. What does mother's milk do? Mother's milk grows a human. Mother's milk grows a baby. Acorns grow hibernating animals for winter. So what I'm saying is, very often when we have weight loss resistance and weight gain, we're consuming foods that contain both high carbohydrate and high sugar at the same time. So we have this really dense energy source coming in. So if we can not cut that out, because we're going to have pie sometimes, we're going to have ice cream sometimes, we're going to have those things sometimes, but we cut back and we do maybe one meal a day, or we are cognizant of the acorn mother's milk foods, right? So the breast milk diet, yes, Susan Fox. So just kind of an idea around what your energy sources are and what to be mindful of. So another really good thing to do to control hormones is if you ever notice when you're eating a steak or a piece of protein on a plate and you've got some mashed potatoes, and you're eating your steak or your salmon or whatever your protein is, sorry, vegetarians, I don't have a good one for you right now. And you're like, oh God, I'm full. I'm eating this steak. I'm totally full. I'm so done, blah, blah, blah. And you push your plate and then you're like, but those mashed potatoes look really good. And then you take a bite of the mashed potato, and then you take like a second bite and a third bite, and like the seventh bite, you're all, that's weird, because I was just really full just a minute ago. The reason for that is because protein stimulates hormones that tell you to stop eating and that you're full. Carbohydrate does not stimulate those hormones. That's why you can eat a big ass bowl of popcorn ice cream. There's an evolutionary reason for this. It's just like the acorn. It's that food, because fruits and carbohydrates were only available during certain times of year when we were fattening up for winter. So your brain, your primitive body living in a modern world is set up for these scenarios. So often people think, oh, it's just in my genes, it's genetic, I just gain weight because it's part of the genes, and it's just, yeah, because your ancestors were really good at storing energy. That's why you're here today. That's one of the reasons why you've survived till today. Your ancestors were great at this. It doesn't mean that you have to live in a body that you're uncomfortable with. It just means that you kind of have to consider your primitive primal hormones when you're deciding on your meal composition. So those are a couple of strategies. And I just wanted to say one last thing too about the myth of the fast metabolism. So we all kind of knew somebody in high school or college or whatever, maybe still, who had a really efficient or very, what we call fast metabolism. Like Susie Q has the fastest metabolism. She's running around all the time. She barely eats. She weighs like 110 pounds. God, I'm so jealous of her. But what I'm here to say is, was that you, Carolyn? Were you Susie Q?
Long time ago.
You were, yeah. So that's actually a myth. There's the myth of the fast metabolism. That person doesn't necessarily have a fast metabolism. That person has an efficient metabolism. Like her desktop on her computer is like probably clean and organized. There's not a lot of stuff cluttering it and slowing things down. We are all capable of having an efficient metabolism. We just have to kind of clean up our desktop and choose our timing of foods and our macronutrient composition of foods a little bit differently to honor our primitive bodies. So that's kind of the method that I use. I kind of get out of the calorie counting. I get out of the shaming, the character crap that's put on everybody about how they failed in this way or that way. And we dive into the actual reasons people gain or they have weight loss resistance. And so that's the strategy that I use in my clinic. And so, yeah, that's about it. If anybody has questions, I think we have time for Q&A.
Awesome. Great. Wave your hand if you want to say something. Yeah, go for it, Janet. Just unmute yourself, honey. Oh, that was clapping. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's see. We'll just go ahead if somebody wants to chime in and say.
Okay, you know what? I am going to chime in. It's Janet.
Yay.
I'm going to chime in and say that most of you got to witness my health crisis, and I've been with Dr. Amy since January 14th, and the night that I spoke at New Marin, and she has helped me reset my body. I'm in the middle of menopause, and I released 47 pounds. I'm now down to my healthy weight, and I get to wear my clothes that express me fully, which is really exciting. I feel comfortable in my body. And Amy's really great at that Sherlock Holmes and that inquiry and finding out what the right thing to do is. And she works in unison with you, where like there were times where my body said no to a suggestion of hers, and I told her that, and that was fine. So it's really incredible to have such personalized care.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Amy.
Awesome. Yeah. And questions. Michelle Dennis, go for it. Questions.
So I'm one of those efficient metabolism people. I can eat as much food as any man. I eat a lot, and I've always been lucky like that. But what happens with me, and I really need some help with this, is that when I do gain my weight back, I gain it in my hips and in my butt, and then my face just gets skinnier and skinnier. So what do you do to kind of balance things out so that you have you know, the right balance, because I just feel like this has been something that's been going on all my life. And now that I'm, you know, at the age that I am, you know, people look at my face and say, oh my God, you need to gain weight. But then, you know, my butt will still look the same, you know, so what do you do?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. So it's like where the weight gain is landing is you're not too stoked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So
I mean, and I still, I mean, it's not like I gain a lot of weight. I mean, it's just that I lose it in my face first, and I gain it in my face last.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. That could be hormonal. It could be a matter of what kind of exercise you're doing in terms of changing that, or kind of changing your body composition a little bit. It really depends. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a really great answer for that, because that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And
Yeah.
I mean, some bodies just store weight in different places. There's more fat cells in that area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's hereditary because I basically have my mom's body. You know, she.
Did your mom have that too?
Yeah, she did. And it's just kind of just an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see Carolyn Price. Go ahead.
I'm just following up on Michelle's question. I'm wondering if you talked about evolutionary reasons for weight gain. Is there a reason why, like Michelle, just for her example, would put it on in her tush? I mean, it seems like that would be some kind of survival.
There's probably a heavy genetic component to that, and possibly a hormonal component. Like, we know that when we hit perimenopause, menopause, the weight distribution definitely shifts. You know, which that sounds like something a little bit separate from what you're talking about, Michelle. But you know, hormones can really affect how our body composition, and you can definitely still work with those hormones no matter what age you are, for sure. Because, you know, as I said, food is information, and certain foods stimulate certain hormones. So we're all kind of working in that cascade.
I have a follow-up question. Is there an average amount of weight that women that are menopausal put on each year, or like if they're not like really prudent or dedicated?
Most of my patients 45 and over, when they start hitting peri and menopause, I'd say the average that they gain is about 30.
What?
30 pounds.
I'm doing great.
Sweet. Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, but I find with the thinking is right that we're in this state, it's hormonal, it's just the way it is. But I kind of want people to break that thought process a little bit, because you don't have to. And also, it depends on whether you're comfortable in your body or not. Maybe you're comfortable in your body with 30 extra pounds, then who cares? But some women, they suddenly gain this 10, 20, 30 pounds and like, oh my God, like I feel like my arms are doing this, and I feel there's almost like an inflammatory feeling to that kind of weight gain. So I just like people to kind of reorganize their thought patterns and know that there's ways to obtain a more optimal body composition that makes you feel better in your own skin.
Maybe one more question. Yeah, Kimberly, go for it.
I was just going to do a shout out because when I first got here into this group, I got to meet with Amy and have a consult. And as most of you know, I had Lyme's disease, and that totally messed up everything. And then I hit menopause. So it's like a joyful 6 years. But I just loved how Amy kind of shows up and really holds the space for the individual body, but then brings in the knowledge and the science and all the empathy and like all those things that you want in someone that's like walking the new path with you. I'm getting ready to come to you, Amy, because I'm still got my belly fat. It's still there no matter what I do. So I just wanted to give a shout out because I really enjoyed the consult that we did, and like you're on my radar. So
thanks, Kimberly. You're
awesome. So was there any other specific questions? Because we will do acknowledgements. No, that's okay.
Okay.
Susan Fox, go.
Yeah, because
It's okay.
Amy, great talk. Thank you. Thank you very much. And you mentioned inflammation. And my question is that, and this may apply to Janet's scenario, but when people are on immunosuppressant therapy like prednisone, they will get ironically, they'll get inflamed. There's that sort of natural cortisol weight gain and the hump in the belly.
Yeah.
You know that we call it moon face buffalo body.
Yeah.
Do you do something different for that person who is either having, autoimmune or has been on prednisone or something like that? Or is it kind of the same process where you're, sort of detoxifying and finding the foundation and then finding this person's
well,
balance?
yeah, in my clinic, I really emphasize personalized nutrition. I know a lot of us do, but like really personalized approach. So maybe they're on prednisone, maybe they're taking some kind of immune suppressant for a period of time. So we may do something a little bit differently during that time, because it may not be a possibility to fast as much or, or whatever it is that we come up with. So we're going to shape the process with the person's preferences, values, current needs, and all of those things. But that can be a challenge for people, but it can be done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you said that, it made me think. Now there's the stereotypical Hulk, right? That hangry Hulk.
Yeah, totally.
I actually had a quick question too, Amy. You were talking about insulin, of course. And so it's like our body basically makes insulin. Is this right? That makes insulin as a response to what we're eating.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is to like not produce much.
Right. So the hormones are supposed to come out for a period of time, do their job, and bail.
Yep.
They're not supposed to hang around for a long period of time. So if we're stimulating insulin through what we're eating multiple times or at a high frequency throughout the day and the week, we're just going to be in that high insulin state. And the most dramatic version of a high insulin state is the diabetic or the person with prediabetes, because that's a result of that high insulin state. But for most of us, it's just weight loss resistance. And so that's kind of one of the main strategies. It's not like the only one, but it's kind of one of the main ones that I like people to kind of understand, because it's easy to understand that concept and to kind of get your insulin low. So there's another hormone called glucagon that can come out and burn fat when it's like a seesaw. Insulin goes down, glucagon comes up, and glucagon takes the fat out of the cells, and you're burning fat.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So let me ask you, like, many evenings I will have a cocktail. I don't eat sugar generally. That's the only form of sugar I usually get, right?
Right.
So that's just the one time in the day that I generally would have that. Is that bad?
So
judgment. Is that bad?
You glutton. No.
I'm looking for permission.
I get this question. I do get this question a lot.
And if loving you is wrong, do I want to be right?
So I get this question a lot because a lot of people like to have a cocktail in the evening, and even if they're doing a low sugar cocktail, so you're having a gin martini or a vodka martini, it's a low sugar cocktail. So what happens is it's not the sugar that's an issue with alcohol very often, unless you are making like a Mai Tai or like some kind of fruity drink, then you're in double trouble.
Yeah.
It's the fact that alcohol occupies the liver, and your liver has to process it because it is a toxin. So the liver spends a lot of time processing it. So it kicks you out of a fasted state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're fasting, your liver's resting, you're fat burning, your body's repairing. So this gets less into weight loss and more into the repair and inflammation. So if you're having a lot of weight loss resistance and you're drinking a low carb cocktail in the evening, you're kind of kicking yourself out of that fasted state with that cocktail. So what I have people do is if they're intermittent fasting and they know they're going to have a cocktail that night, they're with friends, then you might push your eating window to a later time, so the next day you would fast for a little longer, or you have your cocktail a little earlier. There's ways around it. There's ways
Day
of
drinking.
day drinking. That's a solution. So, but there are ways around it. And there's reasons why it's, quote, bad. Not really, but it can stall you out.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. That's
One more
great.
question?
Yeah, go for it, Susan.
Thank you. Amy, I might have missed this. My apologies. Do you have a recommendation for the number of hours of fasting? Is it the 16/8 that you recommend, or is it, 2 days on, 3 days off, or every other day?
So if you're going to run a marathon, you don't work out one day and jump into the marathon the next day. So fasting is something you want your body to metabolically work into so you don't get hangry. So I typically have people try to do a 16/8. If they can't do a 16/8, then a 14/10. They can't do a 14/10, at least do a 12/12, and try to give yourself 3 hours of fasted time before bed. That 2 to 3 hours of fasted time before bed is really key.
Thank you.
That can be super helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Carolyn's got one more, and so does
Oh.
Sandy. Okay, good.
And so I just want to get clear. This is all for weight loss. This is not maintenance, right? You're not suggesting this is a lifestyle once you achieve your goal weight.
I'm suggesting that a fasting focused lifestyle is a very doable and actually more normal and human body friendly way of living than 6 meals a day, because that's how our ancestors lived. They didn't fall over in the bush because they needed a Snickers bar when they're hunting their prey. Like they were focused, they were mental clarity, and people who fast know this. They know they're not hungry. They know they have mental clarity. They know, hey, and you're gonna save so much time and money because you're not cooking all the time. You're not spending. You're just, so that a fasting focused lifestyle is something I do teach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then last one, Sandy, and then.
I was wondering, are there any carbs that are good? Like, I love a good potato.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
And I don't eat a lot of red meat. I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't like eating a lot of meat.
Yeah.
So, like, what kind of carbs are better for you? Or even vegetables that are sort of carbs? I don't know.
So carbs aren't bad. I mean, a lot of traditional societies ate higher carb. It's really about carbohydrate frequency, and it's about refined carbohydrates. So if you want to have potatoes, have them at lunch or dinner. Maybe have a higher protein breakfast, or skip breakfast, or rethink breakfast, because people are, I don't want to eat eggs all the time. So you rethink breakfast. I'm having soup. I'm having fish. I'm having something else besides a higher carbohydrate or fruit-based breakfast. And I know you don't like that much red meat. So maybe you're doing other sources of protein, or so slow cooked carbs, slow cooked grains or beans that you really kind of cook the crap out of, to get all the toxins out. And so don't think of carbs as bad. Think of high carbohydrate frequency as less ideal.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was great. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.